1 year left to go as we go independent with our lineup of 2015. Although a very unique list, the best animated feature race that year all went to the infamous Pixar film. But as it still holds my momentum. And remember, what I'll be doing here is ranking all the nominees. Coming in at number 5 is the one film on this list that I really couldn't understand. It's Anomalisa. Yes, I know that this is a depressing adult movie here. A famous customer service expert that is extremely lonely and hasn't have one single person in his life to be like him. Not even his wife, ex-wife, son, or anybody that's around him. And it's just this one fan of him that's in the same hotel as him. Since this is based on a Charlie Kaufman radio play, which he himself was one of the directors, producers, and the writer of this film, I don't get Kaufman's style in the media of animation. Granted, it's understandable why it's animated because everyone else is Tom Noonan. I just don't understand what the message of the film itself, on how it can portray in real life. The performances of David Thewlis and Jennifer Jason Leigh doesn't connect well, and the animation, obviously the lines of the faces are noticeable and they have two ways to actually use it, one of them in the nightmare scene, probably the best of the entire movie. And honestly, with the nudity that's in this film, and yes, I said nudity because I said Anomalisa is an adult animated film here, it just feels weird, especially in stop motion. So kids, you're not allowed to watch this film. Now, if I was familiar with Kaufman's work, I couldn't understand it better. But if you're an adult like myself that's qualified to watch this film, watch it by yourself. Number 4, Boy and the World. Going into a Brazilian animated film, it's very colorful movie by all means, but I just don't know what to say here. As a movie with no dialogue, which is not the only one from this lineup, you don't get much with the story. It's just a boy searching his dad in the Brazilian environment. At least I didn't really say I hated like Anomalisa, it's just, what else is there? I would say the music, especially the song they play a few times in the movie, the credits, and in the trailer, is definitely good. Sure, Brazil is an international country that's not well known in animated features outside of the UK, Canada, France, and Japan, but if you want to see a Brazilian animated feature that is not the Rio films, I would say not this one for me. Number 3, When Marty Was There. As this being Studio Ghibli's latest film before its hiatus until Earwig and the Witch in 2020, Hiramasa Yanabayashi's adaptation of the 1967 British novel about a young girl struggling to figure out who's this girl in this mansion that she only sees. And when she's figuring out this situation, it could really hurt herself, but it really works well with the connection between Anna and Marty. The animation is not really that special compared to the other Ghibli films, since it's more on the script and the characters here. I will say that the first half hour is a bit confusing on how she's trying to get used with a different environment and her relationship with her aunt, uncle, and another girl in the town. But when she meets Marnie, that's when the story really gets deep and powerful. More details would explain a lot more about who Marnie is, but of course, spoilers. Now, there is one thing I would like to say here that could be a criticism here, is actually the marketing. Without knowing what this film was about before I watched it, is it just me, or does the trailer and the poster of this film told me that this was going to be an LGBT-themed film? I mean, really think about it. Before we figured out who Marnie really is, the poster and how they're facing away each other while holding their hands, the dancing, the way Marnie teaches Anna on rowing a boat, the picnic, calling them a precious secret, and probably the most infamous reason why I thought this was an LGBT-themed movie is the design of Anna, especially with her hair and the clothes she wears. Like in many international animated films, there is always an English dub, which in this case it has a bunch of all-stars. You got Haley Steinfeld, Catherine O'Hara, Vanessa Williams, Gina Davis, John C. Reilly, Ellen Burstyn, Kathy Bates, Ronnie Rodriguez, and well-known voice actors like Ray Griffin and Fred Tatasciore. For me, it would actually be up to you, because I don't know which dub to go with, because the casting choices for both have some ups and downs. As this being one of Studio Ghibli's lowest films, in terms of how many people consider what's the best from Studio Ghibli, I'll say give it a watch. It's that unique as it's more of a calmer film, unlike most of Ghibli's other films. Number 2, Inside Out. When I first saw this back on the big screen and a rewatch for my Oscar movie marathon in 2015, I really had a good time with it, and I do consider it back then a great film from Pixar. Coming through it now, though, it's great, but not one of Pixar's greatest, like a B average or around 85% of reviews. I would say like an A minus sort of thing for me. I will give it the script is absolutely well done. Not just the concept that Pete Docter gave us, but the emotional impact of the feature, especially the relationship between joy and sadness and Riley's feelings on her new home in San Francisco. By coming into a rewatch of this film, there are some scenes in the film that I would say it's a bit slow paced. Since the journey of sadness, getting back to headquarters with all these obstacles they come across, and when fear, anger, and disgust have to deal with Riley by making her depressed. And honestly, sadness is just a bland character unlike any other ones I've seen. And is it just me, or do I keep getting confused that Anger's voice for some reason is Wallace Shawn, but I know for a fact it's Lewis Black? For Bing Bong, definitely well written. It's just Richard Kind's performance was a bit too molt, if you know what I mean. In fact, the acting could be an off point of the script for me. And as a person who can't really handle my emotions, it's extremely rare for me to be sad because I just can't. And of course, it's a Pixar film. Pixar equals no recommendations. And my number 1 of the animated feature nominees of 2015 is Shaun the Sheep movie. When Aardman decided to bring their Walt iconic sheep into the big screen after being a star in the Oscar-winning Wallace and Gromit short A Close Shave, Shaun went to be a TV star, and I did remember that I watched some episodes on Playhouse Disney when I was a kid, but of course it was a short film series. Now coming into his first big adventure, it seems obvious that it's just Shaun and the gang to find their farmer, and keeps the same veins of the show with no dialogue. This shows the talent of the animators at Aardman with the clever use of story, characters, and comedy brings a highlight of the stop-motion films of the 2010 decade. The way how it's a comedy is mainly the heart of Shaun and his promise to bring back his owner, but when the rest of the sheep joins him and the dog Blitzer, things get a bit complicated. Putting aside their differences by all working together to get him back, despite of avoiding Thumper, the animal containment worker. Also, the song Feels Like Summer by Tim Wheeler should have been nominated for Best Original Song. I mean, this thing alone is without a doubt the best scene of the movie. Fun fact, I used that clip to make a nutrient parody song for my health class back in my sophomore year in high school. With the direction of Mark Burton and Richard Starsuck, with the addition of no dialogue present, I do highly recommend it. You don't even need to watch A Close Shave or the show in order to understand the film. This is why I do think Shaun the Sheep movie should have won for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. And yes, I will be reviewing a Shaun the Sheep movie for Armageddon for the animated reviews of 2020 since it got nominated, as this is being recorded 5 days after the Oscar nominations were announced. As for the other categories, Inside Out did got nominated for Best Original Screenplay for Pete Docter, Meg Laveau, Josh Cooley, and Ronnie Del Carmen, which lost to Josh Singer and Tom McCarthy for the Best Picture winning film Spotlight. For me, I would have chosen Jonathan Herman, Andrea Berloff, Esley Savage, and Alan Wankins for Straight Outta Compton, as I would rank the lineup from 5 to 1 being Spotlight, Bridge of Spies, Ex Machina, Inside Out, Straight Outta Compton. We now go into the question, what other films could have been a better choice the Academy should have nominated? This was honestly tough. I've seen most of the major contenders that were on the submission list. The only major one that I have yet to see is Studio Shizou's The Boy and the Beast, which they would later make Minari. The others I've seen are Pixar's The Good Dinosaur, which I prefer Inside Out over, but that's still a good film. Khalil Gibran's The Prophet, which was directed by Lion King director Roger Allers, which is very well colorful, and a fantastic performance by Liam Neeson. Minions, which was my second favorite of the Despicable Me series. The Peanuts movie, a very emotional, lighthearted movie from Blue Sky Studios, since I did watch The Peanuts as a kid. And Nickelodeon's The SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water, which was better than the first film, and it brought back that classic SpongeBob of the first 3 seasons of the show. But for the Academy with the Lego movie scenario, with the live action aspect, yeah, they would have not gone with it. And I know people are going to ask me, what about Cartoon Network's regular show, The Movie? Which I forgot that was on the list, but it was a TV movie, and I haven't watched the show, so I can't judge that. I will say I would not have Anomalisa and Boy in the World on my list. But oh boy, what would I nominate here? Honestly, it's pretty much of a tough one, I would say. So this wraps up my ranking of the best animated feature nominees of 2015. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe and like button and comment down below what is your ranking of these films if you have seen the 5. And do you think Inside Out deserved the Oscar for Best Animated Feature or not? As I finished up all the years of the 2010 decade, since I did reviews of 2016 through 2019, back before I did this whole catch-up retrospective, it's now time for me to rank all 10 winners and what film I would consider to be, for me, the best animated feature winner of the 2010 decade.